Okay guys, so you should have watched the Math Antics video already before this video, where I'm going to tell you a little bit about what your spiral work today is going to consist of. In the Math Antics video, you might have remembered that they talked about decimals and fractions being part of a whole. You can think about, when you're writing decimals, you can think about using the place value chart. This is familiar to you. You've got your tens column, your ones column. To the right of the ones column, that's where your decimal point is going to go. And then to the right of your decimal, you've got your tenths column, not tens, tenths with the THS ending. Then your hundredths column. Okay, it would be your thousandths column after that, but we're not going to go that far. So when you're writing numbers, and not numbers that are less than a whole in decimal form, you are thinking about the place value chart. When you have a number that is less than 1, you're always putting a 0 in the ones column and then your decimal. So for instance, if you wanted to write 15 tenths, you would write 0.15 because you've got 0 groups of 1 decimal, you've got 1 group of tenths, and you've got 5 groups of hundredths. We say this number in words. We don't say 0, we say 15 hundredths. If you wanted to write the number 3.2, that means that you have 3 wholes and 2 tenths. We say this number 3 and 2 tenths. When you say the decimal, you say the word and in place of the decimal. So this is 3 and 2 tenths. 4 and 62 hundredths. In this group, we added a group of 10. So this is a bit of a longer one, but this is 72 and 7 tenths. Notice the number after the decimal has the last name of the column that it's in. So 72 and 7 tenths. We say 7 tenths because 7 is in the tenths column. 4 and we say the full number after the decimal, 62 hundredths. The last number in the full number, the last number is the column that you say. So it's 4 and 62 hundredths. 3 and 2 tenths. You don't need to say the 0. 15 hundredths. Okay, you can also write decimals as fractions, as mentioned in the previous video. A fraction is another way of writing less than a whole. So 15 hundredths would be written just like it sounds. 15 as the numerator over 100. We say 15 hundredths with the THS ending. Okay, 3 and 2 tenths is written as a mixed number fraction. So some of you might remember a mixed number fraction. That's when you have your 3 wholes, because you know you have 3 wholes because it's in the ones column. It's not after the decimal. So 3 wholes and 2 tenths. 3 wholes and 2 over 10. So just like you say the number is how you write the number as a fraction. 4 wholes, so we got 4 and 62 hundredths. Because the 2 is in the hundredths column, that's why we're saying the hundredths last name. We've got a big 4 and 62 hundredths is how you write that. And I know it's kind of difficult to see this column on video, but I will take a picture of this piece of chart paper once I'm finished the video. 72 wholes and 7 tenths. So we got 72 and 7 tenths is written as a fraction. 72 with a 7 over 10 fraction. So 72 and 7 tenths. We're going to do a couple together. So hoping that you get the hang of it. All right, so I'm going to, bear with me, I'm writing on my front door here. I'm going to do 6 decimal 33. So we don't say 6 decimal 33, or we don't say 6.33. We say 6 and 33 hundredths. Okay, and think about how you're going to write that as a fraction. 6 and 33 hundredths. It's going to be a mixed number fraction. You've got 6 whole numbers and 33 hundredths. Just like it sounds, 6 whole numbers and 33 over 100. Okay, let's try another one. 2 decimal 51. Is that how we say the number, 2 decimal 51? No, we don't. So we've got 2 whole numbers and 51 hundredths. So think about how you're going to write that as a fraction. Is it going to be just a regular fraction, like 15 over 100? Or is it going to be a mixed number fraction? Right, it's going to be a whole number, a mixed number fraction, because you've got the whole number. You've got a number to the left of the decimal. So you have 2 wholes and 51 out of 100 parts. So 2 and 51 hundredths. One last one here. 0 decimal 76. 0 decimal 76, is that how we say it? No. So you have 0 ones this time, so that means you have no wholes. You have less than a whole. So we have 76 hundredths. Okay, so do we write that as a mixed number? We don't write it as a mixed number because we don't have any wholes. We don't have a number to the left of the decimal. We have a number that's smaller than 1. So we have 76 hundredths. 76 over 100. You've got the numerator as the top number, 76, and the denominator, the bottom number, as 100, because 6 is in the hundredths column. That's why your denominator is in the hundredths column. If you did not have a number in the hundredths column, like you don't have here, you have 3 wholes, so you have 3 ones, decimal 2, 2 tenths. That's why your denominator is a 10 here and not 100, because you've got 3 wholes and 2 tenths of a decimal. All right, you're going to have some practice with this now. Very similar questions in the spiral book. Okay, so you're going to turn to page 46 in the spiral book. There's an example for another quick review here. Remember some of the things you learned in the Math Antics video as well, but you're going to complete 46 and 47. And if you're up to completing the stretch you're thinking, you can go ahead and do that. If you've got any questions, please touch base with a friend or myself in the chat room at 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock. Have a good day. When you get to question 1 on page 47, you will notice that the question asks you to model the decimals with base 10 blocks. Okay, you should be familiar with the base 10 blocks. We've got the square, which represents 100 little cubes, which in this case, when we use them to model decimals, we use the square as 1 whole, the number that you see in the ones column. When you want to represent a tenth of a decimal, we use a rod because it's got 10 little groups of the cubes together. So this represents 1/10. A whole square represents 1 whole. A rod represents 1/10 of a decimal. And the little tiny cube represents 1/100th of a decimal. Okay, so when you think about the square, you know that there are 10 rows or 10 rods or 10 columns. 10 of these makes up one whole. 10 tenths make up one whole. When you think about the 1/100th of a decimal, one whole makes up 100 of these little cubes. Okay, so 100 of these little cubes fills up this whole square. So when we're modeling decimals using base 10 blocks, we draw our rods and our squares and our tiny cubes to symbolize those numbers. So let me put this down here. So if I wanted to model 3.22, or the way we properly say it, 3 and 22 hundredths, you want to draw 3 holes, okay? And the way we draw 3 holes is we draw 3 squares. 1, 2, 3, and of course we try to organize our squares and we're trying to draw them in similar size, very neat and precise. Okay, so we've got 3 holes. We've got 2 groups in the tenths column, so we draw 2 rods, okay? And then we've got 2 groups in the hundredths column, so we draw 2 little squares that represent 1/100th each. We've got 2 hundredths. And remember, we say this number 3 and 22 hundredths. If I wanted to model, we don't say the 0, remember, 43 hundredths, we don't draw any holes because we have 0 in the ones column. This number is less than 1. We have 4 tenths. So we draw 4 groups of 10 here, 4 rods. Okay, and we have 3 in the hundredths column, so we draw 3 little tiny cubes. And we say this number 0 and, sorry, I'm always saying the 0, 43 hundredths. We don't need to mention the 0. But even if you did say 0 and 43 hundredths, it would not be incorrect. Okay, here we have 2.64, or properly we say 2 and 64 hundredths. Okay, we draw 2 holes, so 2 whole groups of 100. 6 in the tenths column, so we draw 6 rods. Okay, and we draw 4 hundredths, so 4 little cubes. Okay, hopefully this helps you, because tomorrow you'll be doing work out of the textbook and you're going to need to understand how to represent decimals using base 10 blocks. Okay, we will talk to you later. Good luck.